Welcome to the session 3 of mining frequent pattern association and correlation. So in this particular session we'll discuss the algorithm, that is epigrowth algorithm. In our earlier session we have discussed how to find out the frequent patterns, how to find out the frequent item set and association rule mining from the algorithm like a priori algorithm and hash based technique. In this particular session, this covers our course outcome 4, that is identify and apply algorithms and techniques of association rule mining and its application. It covers the 3 program outcomes, that is PO1 engineering knowledge, PO4 conduct of complex problems, PO5 modern tool uses. So in this particular topic, we will discuss the algorithm without epigrowth algorithm which uses without candidate generation. Finding the frequent item set without candidate generation. So here we can able to minimize the number of scans, as the number of scans are more in case of a priori algorithm. Here directly it is based upon finding a frequent item set by using a epi tree. The contents are mining frequent patterns without candidate generation, transaction reduction, partitioning, epigrowth algorithm, example, epitree method for large database, advantages and summary. So first, mining frequent patterns without candidate generation. It compresses a large database into a compact form where a frequent pattern tree, that is epi tree, structures. This epi tree is highly condensed but complete for frequent pattern mining. It avoids costly database scan, because once you are constructing a frequent pattern tree, then we can able to find out all the frequent item set from the mining of tree itself. So no need to again and again go to the move to the database and scan the database. In the later slide we will explain how to construct the frequent pattern tree. Next is develop an efficient epi tree based frequent pattern mining method. This includes a divide and conquer methodology which decompose mining task into smaller ones. So here suppose we have a large database, we have to divide the database into a smaller database, then find the tree and branches of the small database, then we can able to integrate those parts and it will form a full. Avoid candidate generation, sub database test only. Transaction reduction. A transaction that does not contain any frequent k item set cannot contain any frequent k plus 1 item set. Now suppose we have a transaction where suppose we do not have any one item frequent item set, we cannot say it can help you to generate the 2 item frequent item set or 3 item frequent item set. Such transactions can be marked or removed from the further consideration. So suppose any transaction which do not represent the frequent item set, it should be marked and it should be discarded from the list. Partitioning. Here we are using a transactional data set D, which where we are using a divide, it divides into n partitions. You can able to see here we are using two phases, phase 1 and phase 2. In phase 1 we are taking a transaction in D, then divide this into a n number of partitions, then find the frequent item set located local to each partition by using one scan to that data set, to that partition. Now this is a divide technique, then combine all local frequent items to form a candidate item set. Next, in phase 2, find a global frequent item set among candidates. So here you can partition the database into a n number of partition. In every n number of partition, we can get a frequent item set, frequent item candidate item set. Then we can merge it or compare it, and we can find the global frequent item set among the candidate by one scan. Now the final result is frequent item set in database D. So here we'll start the FP growth algorithm. As it shows, it is a two-step process. So first step include use a compressed representation of the database using an FP tree. Second is, once an FP tree has been constructed, it uses a recursive divide and conquer approach to mine the frequent item sets. Now we'll explain the algorithm, working principle of algorithm by using an example. So here we'll use the same example which we have used for the a priori algorithm. This is the example. This will discuss for the same dataset D as used for a priori algorithm. You can able to see here we are having nine number of transactions, that is T100, T200, T300 up to T900. T100 includes the item I1, I2, I5. T200 includes I2, I4. T300 includes I2, I3. T400 includes I1, I2, I4. T500 includes I1, I3. T600 includes I2, I3. T700 includes I1, I3. T800 includes I1, I2, I3, I5. T900 includes I1, I2 and I3. Now, in the later slide, we will discuss how we can utilize this particular data set to construct the frequent pattern. Step 1. Representation of the database using an FP tree. Now, we scan the database and arrange the item in L order. This is the step 1 where we can represent the data set. As in the previous slide, I have shown you the data set that can be represented with the form of FP tree, frequent pattern tree. So for this, we scan the database and arrange the items in L order. L order means it is a descending support count order. The first scan of the database is same as a priori, which derives the set of frequent items, that is one item set, and their support count, that is a frequency. Let the minimum support count be 2. Here also we will take a minimum support count which is 2. The set of frequent item is sorted in the order of descending support count. This resulting set list is denoted by L. So as if you count the total scan of the database, the number of items are, we are having 5 items in the dataset D, that is I1, I2, I3, I4, I5, and the support count of the restive items are I1 is 6, I2 7, I3 6, I4 2 and I5 2. So we have to arrange it in a L order. That means first I have to take the higher one I2 7 in a descending order. This is arranged of the items in a descending support count order. So first I have kept I2 7, then I1 6, then I3 6, then I4 2, then I5 2. Next is construction of FP tree. First create the root of the tree labeled with null. So initially at the starting point, when we will create the tree, the root node should be denoted as null. Then scan the database D for the second time. For first time we have scanned and we have counted the support count of individual items and noted it. For the second time we are scanning, the items in each transaction are processed in L order. So why we are scanning? Because whatever the transactions are there, the item list is there, individually in transaction wise we have to arrange the items in a descending support count order. L order means sorted according to descending support count. Now you can see this is our original data set. So here this particular data set is a resulting data set D in a L order. Now T100 is having I1, I2, I5. So it is not in L order as I2 support count is 7 and I1 support count is 6. So as per the L order we have to keep first I2 7, then I16, like that. So T100, now it is rearranged. First I have to keep I2, then I1, then I5. In T200 we are having I2 and I4. So it is correct, as it is we are keeping I2 and I4. T300 we are having I2 and I3. It is also correct, I3 support count is 6, I2 support count is 7. So we have kept as it is T300, I2 and I3. T400, I1, I2 and I4. So here I2 support count is more than I1, so it should be kept first. So this is a rearrangement. T400 is having I2, I1 and I4. T500, I1 and I3. It is also correct, so we have kept I1 and I3. T600, I2 and I3. So we have kept I2 and I3. T700, I1 and I3. It will be as it is I1 and I3. T800 we are having I1, I2, I3 and I5. So I2 is having higher support count, so it should be kept in first order. So T800 is rearranged like I2, I1, I3 and I5. T900 we are having I1, I2 and I3. So here T900 is I2, I1 and I3. Now this is the final list where we have arranged every transactions in a descending support count order or L order. So this can be done after the second scanning. So up to this we have done two times of scanning. Once we have scanned to find out the support count of individual item. In second scan we have rearranged every transaction in L order. Next is construction of FP tree. It is very important. So here we will use the newly generated data set or arranged transactions data set. So here every transaction starting from T100 to T900 are arranged according to descending support count order. So now we will start the construction of the FP tree. So initially, as I have already discussed in the step, the root node can be denoted by a value that is null. So you can see here, this is a null value, that is root node. Now we will start with the first transaction, that is T100. T100 contains I2, I1 and I5. That means here I2 is having a link with the null node. So you can see I2 is attached to the null node. Then after I2, I2 joins I1, then I1 joins I5. So when I have constructed this particular one, remember here every transaction represents one branch which is connected to the root node. Now we can also repeat the path. Now once we are doing this, so here once I have created for one transaction I2, then I1, then I5. That's why I have written 1 plus 1, 1 for I2, 1 for I1 and 1 for I5. Next is T200, I2 and I4. So here again already I2 is there, no need to draw it again. So only I have to increment a support count value. So 1 plus 1 we can get I2, then I4 can be separately constructed which support count is 1. T300, I2 and I3. Again we will take a same path I2, then increment the value, then I3. Here it is 1. Then T400, I2, I1, I4. So here we can take the same path, already I2 and I1 is there. So I2, then we can take plus 1, I1 another plus 1, then I4, here it is 1. Then T500, I1 and I3. So here you can see this I1, it is not started with I2, so we cannot take it in a same path like this. So you have to take a other path. Here I1 is directly connected to null. So here it is I1 and I3. So we can put 1, here 1. Then T800, T600, I2 and I3. So again we have done I2, again I3, already 1 is there, then you can put +1 and +1 for I2. T800, I2, I1, I3, I5. So we can construct I2, I1. Up to this we have repeated the path, that's why we can put 1 plus and 1 plus, then I3, another 1, then I5, 1. Then T900, I2, I1, I3. So here we can use I2, I1, I3 same path and just increment the one value. We can put +1 here, +1 here and +1 here. So with this we have concluded T900 transaction. That means we have taken the branches for every transaction. Now already we have given incremented the value. So how to check whether your constructed FP tree is a correct FP tree or not? So to check that, what you will do, you can list the items and just count this support count you have incremented, you have given while traversing the path. So here we can see 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, 1, 1, 1. 7 times 1s are there. So I have summarized here I2, it is 7. So we know that it should match with your support count what you have got in your first scan. Then for I1, here 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. Again here 1 plus 1, 6. So I1 is 6. I3, for I3 here we are having 1 plus 1, 2. Here we are having 1 plus 1, 2. And here we are having 1 plus 1, 2. So I3 is also 6. For I4 it is 1 here, another 1 here. So 1 plus 1, 2. For I5 it is 1 here and 1 here. So 1 plus 1, 2. So if this particular summarization table gives you the correct support count for individual item set as we have found in your first scan of the data set, then you can say that your FP tree is a correct one. So remember, if you have mistake in the FP tree, the finding frequent item, then corresponding all the results will be are dependent upon that particular FP tree. That's why we should be careful while constructing the FP tree. Here, the branch is created for each transaction. For example, the scan of the first transaction, that is T100, I1, I2, I5, which contains 3 items, that is I2, I1, I5 in L order, leads to construct the first branch of the tree with 3 nodes, that is I2 1, I1 1 and I5 1. That's what I have discussed in the previous slide. Here I2 is linked as a child of the root, I1 is linked as a child of I2 and I5 is linked to I1. The second transaction T200 contains the item I2 and I4 in L order, which would result in branch where I2 links to the root and I4 links to the I2. However, this branch would share a common prefix, that is I2, with the existing path for T100. Therefore, we instead increment the count of I2 node by 1 and create a new node I4 by 1, which is linked as a child to I2 2. For each transaction, a branch can be added and the count of each node along a common prefix is incremented by 1. And nodes for item following the prefix are created and linked accordingly. The tree obtained after scanning all of the transaction is shown in figure 2 in the next slide with the association node links. So this is the constructed tree. Already I have shown you in my slide how to construct the tree. This is just the summarization of that constructed FP tree. You can see the nodes I2, I1, I5. Again I5 is here. So this figure where we have all the nodes which is present, that is I1, I3, and it defines where it is connected where the next one is there, like I3 is here and I3 is here. I3 is here, so it has a link, so that it will be easy for you to find out the count. Here it is I1, here it is I5, it is linked with I5 another one. Here it is I2, I2 is here it is I16, I1, then an I14, and here it is I12. So this is only the summarization. In my previous diagram I have just put 1 plus 1 like that 7 times. Here it has finally given the 7 as a support count. Now once you have done with the epi tree, the step 2 is mining of epi tree. Now construction of conditional pattern base. The epi tree is mined as follows. Start from each frequent length one pattern, that is as in initial suffix pattern, a sub database which consists of the set of prefix path in the epi tree co-occurring with the suffix pattern. Second is construction of conditional epi tree. So we will summarize the table later. So then once we are done with the conditional epi tree, then we are constructing the conditional epi tree, then generation of frequent patterns from the conditional epi tree. The pattern growth is achieved by the construction concatenation of the suffix pattern with the frequent pattern generated from the conditional epi. Now this is the summarization of mining epi tree in the following table. So here you can see, for reference I have just put the figure here. We have to summarize. First we are listing the items. So while listing, first I have kept I5 as it is having a lower support count. Like you just traverse reverse order of this table. So I5, then I4, then I3, then I1. I have not kept I2 as I2's prefix is null. We should not consider that. Now first column is, first we will discuss the first column, that is conditional pattern base. Now how to generate this conditional pattern base? Here you have to see what are the prefix for I5. To reach I5, what is the path? So here to reach I5, first we have to see where exactly the I5 is located. I5 is located here and I5 is located here. So to reach here, to reach this I5, we have traversed here once I2, I1, then I5. That's why I have written I2, I1, 1. That means first once we have traversed in this path. Second, for second I5, we have traversed I2, I1, I3, 1. So as I5 support count is 1, we have come to this I5, reached to this I5 only once. So 1 should be added with the prefix path of this I5. So I2, I1, 1 for the first I5, and for this I5 we are having I2, I1, I3 and 1. Now comes to I4. So first we have to search where is I4. I4 is here. So another I4 is here. So for this I4 I have to write I2, then I1, then I4. So we should not include I4 in this list because we are considering for I4. That's why the paths are like I2, I1, 1 for this I4, and for this I4 only I2, 1. Next is I3. So for I3 we have to locate where is I3. I3 is here, I3 is here and I3 is here. So to reach here, the path is like I2, I1, 1, and to reach here the path is I2, 1, and to reach here the path is I1, 1. Sorry, I1, 2. So first I3 should be reached by I2, I1, 2. It is written 2, that's why 2. Here for the second one I2, I3, 2, and for third one I1, 2. Next, the last one is I1. So I1 is present here and I1 is present here. So here the prefix is I2. So we can write I1, I2, 4. 4 times we have come to we have taken the path from I2 to I1. But this I1 should not be included as its prefix is null, as that is the reason we have not included I2 in our list. So now this is our conditional pattern base. Now how to find out conditional FP tree from there? So just combine it. Here we are having I2 I1 1 and I2 I1 I3 1. So if you see I2 and I1 1, I2 I1 1, it's common. So we can write I2 2, I1 2, then I3 1. So if you combine this, the particular item set which support count is less than 2 should not be included in the conditional FP tree. So I3 1 should be rejected. Only we have recorded I2 2 and I1 2. Now here I2 2 and I1 1. I2 is here 1 and I2 is here 1. So that I can write I2 2 and I1 is 1. As I1 is 1 which is less than support count, I1 should be discarded. Here I2 I1 2, I2 2 and I1 2. So that can be written as I2 is 4, I1 is 2 and again I1 is 2. So here I should not write I1 4. Why? Because one I1 2 is in this direction, another I1 2 is another direction. So we should not merge the two paths. That's why this I1 is separately listed. And the fourth one is I1, that is I2 4, it will be as it is I2 4. So this is our conditional FP tree values. Now the final step, that is finding frequent pattern generated from this conditional FP tree. So this frequent pattern, how we are generating? We have to combine all the item set with the items. Like I2 2, I1 2, I can write I2 I5 2, I1 I5 2, I2 I1 I5 2. That means all possible combinations with the item set. So here we have written I2 2 and I have combined I1 with this I2. So that's what I have written I2 I5 2. Next is I1 I5 2. Next is I2 I1 I5 2. Second is, here we are having I2 2. I can write I2 combined with I4 2. Third one, I2 4, I1 2, I1 2. So it can be written I2 I3 4, I1 I3 4 and I1 I2 I1 I3 2. Because I1 I3 4, for I1 we are having a 4 path and I2 I1 I3 combinedly it is 2. And the fourth one is I2 4, we can write I2 I1 4. So with this, all our frequent pattern generated has been summarized in our table. So this table, this construction of the table is completely based upon this FP tree. That is why it is very much required to construct this FP tree correctly, so that we can use this tree to we can mine this tree to find conditional pattern based value, conditional FP tree value and frequent pattern generated from that conditional FP tree. So the procedure what I have explained is listed below. For I5, we first consider I5 which is last items in L rather than the first. I5 occurs in two branches of the FP tree, which has been shown in figure 2. The path formed by the two branches for the occurrence of I5 are I2 I1 I5 1 and I2 I1 I3 I5 1. By considering I5 as a suffix, its corresponding two prefix paths are I2 I1 1 and I2 I1 I3 1. We should not consider this I5 because only we are taking the prefix of that I5, which forms its conditional pattern base. its conditional AP tree contains only a single path, that is I22, I12, and I3 is not included because its support count is 1 and less than minimum support count. And the single path generates all the combination to find the frequent item set. That means these three lines represent the three columns in our table as in the previous slide we have discussed. So here while combining we should write I2, I5, 2, I1, I5, 2 and I2, I1, I5, 2. So all this explanation is to represent the item set I5 in the table which shows the values for conditional pattern base, the values for conditional AP tree value and all the frequent patterns generated from I5. So like that for I4, its two prefix paths from the conditional pattern base are I2, I1, 1, I2, 1 which generates a single node conditional AP tree only I2, 2. Why? Because we have combined this I2, 1 and I2, 1, it represents I2, 2 and I1, 1 should be discarded and devise one frequent pattern because its support count is less than 2, that's why it is discarded and it derives one frequent pattern, that is I2, I1, 2 and it represents the frequent pattern I2, I1, 2 and represents the frequent set I2, I1, I4, 2. For I3, simply I3's conditional pattern base are the different paths are I2, I1, 2, I2, 2 and I1, 2 and its conditional AP tree has two branches, that is I2, 4, I1, 2 and I1, 2 as shown in the figure 1, it's figure 2 which generates the set of patterns, that is I2, I3, 4, I1, I3, 4 and I2, I1, I3, 2. This is the frequent pattern generated for I3. For I1, finally, I1's conditional pattern base is I2, 4 whose AP tree contains only one node, that is I2, 4 which generates the frequent pattern, that is I2, I1, 4. Just we are combining I1 with the I2. So this is the summarization or the process what we have explained in the previous slide to find out all the column values for conditional pattern base, conditional AP tree and frequent pattern generated from the conditional AP tree. Now AP tree method for large database. What is the problem generally we are facing? Suppose you want to implement this AP tree for the large dataset. So, when the database is very large, it is sometimes unrealistic to construct the main memory based AP tree. So, if a dataset is very large, that means number of items may be more. So, while considering, you have to rearrange the all the we have to consider all the transactions and represent it in L order. So to recite that table may be a big table and it take much space in the memory to recite, and again while constructing the AP tree also it will take much more space in a memory and it is very confusing. So the solution is, first partition the database into a set of projected database. So whatever the database is there, we have to partition it into a number of sub partition or projected database. Then construct the AP tree for each and individual projected database. Now suppose we are having big large database and we have 5 projected database. We have subdivided into a 5 projected database. So you are excuse me, we have to construct the 5 AP tree for 5 projected database by using a divide method, as in partitioning we have explained. Then we have to conquer it, we have to integrate it and it will give a full AP tree. This is the solution. The advantages of AP tree. The AP tree method reduces the search cost. So how it reduces? because every time we should not move to the main database and scan the database. Like in a priori algorithm, what we are doing, for every item set, for single one item frequent item set, for two items frequent item set, every time we have to scan the database for to know the support count of the set. Then we are comparing with the minimum support count and finding the whether it is a frequent item or not. But in case of FP we are not doing such type of scanning. Only we have used two scanning. For in first scan we have used to find out the frequent items of individual item set. In the second scan only we have arranged every transaction in L order. So once we have constructed the FP tree, the frequent pattern can be generated from the FP tree, so which reduces the source cost. No need to move to the dataset again and again and scan the total dataset, which will take time. It is efficient and scalable for mining both long and short frequent patterns. So here it is scalable, you can use in any data set, and it is a efficient algorithm. It is faster than a priori algorithm. So why it is faster? As here we can limited the scanning time in this by using this algorithm. So in a priori algorithm it is very time taking, as every time we have to scan the database. So that's why a P growth algorithm is more faster compared to a priori algorithm. Summary: by using FP-tree algorithm, we can find the frequent items without candidate generation. So here in the steps, whenever we have started from the beginning, we didn't found, only we have listed the item set. We are not finding the frequent items set, or we can say the candidates, one item, two item, that thing we have not done. So here this tree is using, it is a faster algorithm because we don't have any candidate set generation process, which will delay, because once we are doing that, then again we have to scan the database to find out the support count, but we are not utilizing that method here. It is a faster method, and to generate the frequent pattern it requires only two scans of the database, whereas in a priori algorithm it requires multiple scans. Now how multiple scans? Suppose here a priori is a candidate generation based algorithm. So where every candidate, like candidate for one item frequent item set, candidate for two item frequent item set, every time you have to use this algorithm for to generate the candidates, to scan the database to find out the frequent item. So for one item, two item, three item, so like that for k item set, that time of scanning is required in case of a priori algorithm. But in case of epigrowth algorithm, we are not using such process. What we are doing, once we are two times only we are scanning the data set, and rest of the thing can be generated, or the can all the frequent item set can be generated from the FP tree. So once you have constructed the FP tree very clearly or correctly, then you can able to find out the table with conditional pattern base, conditional FP tree, and all the frequent items generated from that conditional FP tree. So with this we have concluded this particular session, where we have used one technique, that is the epigrowth algorithm technique, which is a partitioning technique and non-candidate generation without candidate generation technique, which is compared with the a priori algorithm. So in our next session we will discuss some more algorithm like vertical data format, that is ECLAT, some techniques where we can use some different representation technique. The main objective is which algorithm give you the optimum solution, that means you will get a frequent items by in a low user space, low memory space, and less time. So we have to optimize our space in the memory, also optimize the time, that is the objective. So we should discuss more algorithm which will improve the efficiency of a priori algorithm. As in the previous session we have used hash based technique, but the demerit is only we can go up to two item frequent item. not more than that. So, but here FP growth is the efficient algorithm compared to any other algorithm. Thank you.